You can hold the long one, that might be on this one, maybe a lot of them. When I get home.
The matters discussed in the closed executive session are limited to those specified in the motion for closure. I move that the board reconvene into open session. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are now back into open session. And starting our regular board meeting. All right, so we will go ahead and call this regular board meeting October 18, 2022. Call it into order at 7:07. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, and the symbol of the perfect friendship among the United cultures.
Moving on to adoption of the agenda.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you adopt the agenda.
All right, so we have a recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to adopt the agenda as is. Any questions? All right, there's no questions on the motion. So moved. And I'll need a second.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Welcome to everybody. Some old faces, familiar faces. So, good to see people here. Appreciate everybody coming out. Running a little bit late, but we'll try to make up a little time as we go, though. So, welcome to everyone. Approval of minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you approve the minutes for the special meeting of October 5th, 2022.
So we have a recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to approve the special meeting minutes from October 5th, 2022. Any questions? There are no questions on the motion. And a second.
A second.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Citizen comment?
Yes, we have a few.
And I apologize, I often get the name pronunciation wrong, or have a hard time with the handwriting, but so correct me so that I can get it correct. And then we do limit it to 2 minutes. Please try to respect your time. We might have some students with us, and so we do try to just practice being good examples to our students and try to maintain good decorum. So we will proceed. We will start with Deborah Brennan.
Good evening, Superintendent and board members. Thank you for hearing me this evening. There's been many discussions this week and letters regarding MESD, and I have a few questions and comments. First off, Laney and Estancia was said to be in our district, but when I looked up on Mitch.com, they're outside of it. The borders are approximately Cedillo Hill to just past Hines Corners, and just north of Golden to almost McIntosh, so I didn't know if the maps are wrong or if I misunderstood. There's been some discussions in the neighborhood revealing some questioning things. Evidently, there's some exterior doors that are not closing and latching properly. I do know that some of the schools have exterior doors in the classroom for security exit, but some of the doors aren't closing, so the staff has to physically pull the door to secure it for unauthorized access. What happens if you forget? If this is indeed the case, why aren't the doors working properly? We all witnessed the grief and sorrow that Uvalde lives with because the door wasn't secured, so I am concerned about that. revealed during these discussions was that there are more lockdowns and shelter in place than known and possibly notified of. Most seem to be disturbances from within. I am concerned on the impact that this is having on our students becoming desensitized to threats and lockdowns, and I definitely know that it's affecting their schoolwork and stress. Lastly, EES. The PSOCOC on October 11th determined that we need to match funds to demolish the old Moriarty Elementary. So it stands to reason that when you go to get the funds for Edgewood, that will be the same. You'll have to match. It was stated then that your reserves are normally at 6%, but now they're at 2%. That's a 60-40 match that they gave you. It equals $199.4 thousand. Where is this money coming from, the match? It has to come, just a couple of seconds? I have like 3 sentences.
I can give you one sentence.
Okay.
Just to finish your sentence.
It comes from somewhere. I'm thinking you're going to attack the operating budget. So I'm wondering what is going to be taken away to pay for this and how our students are going to pay the price.
Thank you. Next speaker would be Sherry Abrams.
I wish to yield my time to Mr. Ray Fulweller.
All right. I'll let you know when you're ready. Next speaker is, I'm gonna go with Cheryl. Is it Honeycutt?
Yes,
All right.
Honeycutt.
Honeycutt.
I just want to ask the board a why question. I don't understand the rationale behind demolishing a building that could be used by the city of Edgewood to be a community center, stuff for place for kids to go and things that we can do in our community. So I don't understand the rationale in wanting to demolish that building. You say you were working for the children. To take money to demolish a building would be taking money away from things for children, would it not? Where if you sold that building to Edgewood, there would be funds there that could be used for the children to go forward. I thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Tom Sullivan.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, friends. I'm a former employee. Started working in the district in 1974. The district had 900 students, K through 12 at the time. I was here during the growth spurt. Freeway was finished through to Harris Canyon, and we had new buildings every year for almost 20 years. I was the principal at Edgewood Elementary School from 1990 to 1994. We grew to over 700 students on that campus. Edgewood was an example of what happened throughout the district. There was, either additions or new wings or an entirely new campus. I was invited back as superintendent in 2013. I left in '94. I was shocked to see how much we had declined, and we had vacant space everywhere. I have seen the facility master plan. I was part of the design of the facility master plan that was done in 2017, and I know that we had language that suggested that we would perhaps be able to reuse it. And unfortunately, it was hopeful, but I think there's been a current determination that it is no longer a good use of limited funds. I know we've been complimented by the Legislative Finance Committee around the same time for the way the district did use its limited resources in cutting buildings and demolishing those that were no longer in good use. What I did notice is that in all of the years that I was involved with the building, multiple different buildings on the main campus, I've been the principal of 3 that have been demolished, have been replaced with new and better buildings each and every time. And I have no doubt that this district and this board would be able to do the same thing again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Susan Hill.
Okay.
I'd like to cede my time to Ray Goldweiler.
You're wrapping up some time, buddy.
So it's your turn.
You're up.
So I've got 6 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's Ray Fulweiler?
Yes, thank you. So, we have this Yazzie Martinez versus State of New Mexico lawsuit in 2018. That was before the current administration. And basically, an article in the Journal this year recently said, earlier this month, lawmakers were told that despite more than $1 billion of investments responding to that lawsuit, it's unclear if students named in the lawsuit are any better off. So in the lawsuit, what they said, what the judge said was that the state of New Mexico, based on the Constitution, has failed to provide an adequate, sufficient education to at-risk students. For example, socioeconomically disadvantaged children, English learners, Native Americans, and children with disabilities. Now, we have these kinds of children in all of our school districts, but some have a lot more than others. One of the problems is teachers are not paid as much, or they get new teachers out in these disadvantaged areas. So anyway, the PED has failed to provide. All right, so what is their solution to providing an adequate, sufficient education? Well, the judge had cited that she focused her consideration of inputs on instrumentalities such as instructional materials and computer access. At that time, those were not adequate. And the school districts were not using all the money that they had been funded. Reasonable curricula, according to Judge Singleton, would be possibly pre-kindergarten, summer school, smaller class sizes, reading programs, all to raise up the level of the students that are having trouble. Also, she noted New Mexico is not meeting the requirements of the Bilingual Multicultural Education Act. So a lot of failures on PED, not necessarily school districts in particular, but the PED. So here's what she said. She said, New Mexico's at-risk children finish each school year without the basic literacy and math skills needed to pursue post-secondary education or a career. She used student performance on standardized tests and post-secondary education or a career. She used performance standardized tests, graduation rates, and college remediation rates to bolster her point. In other words, these tests are what? In math, English, reading, science, STEM types of things. New Mexico is currently ranked 51st in the nation on education. The lowest graduation, also the lowest graduation rate in the country. We also noted that she also noted the state has graduated students who have not attained proficiency in the various subjects as measured by tests. So, she noted it is left with no doubt that the education being provided to at-risk children is resulting in dismal outcomes, whether measured by test scores, graduation rates, or the need for college-level remedial courses. The outputs demonstrate the education system is not providing the type of education state law requires. So what is the PED solution? Well, I don't really see a whole lot that's been done to improve kids' scores on what's being tested. We're still 51st. But instead, they decided, well, let's teach SEL, social, emotional learning. Not reading, writing, and arithmetic, no more bigger concentration on that necessarily. They want to, under the guise of equity and anti-racism and inclusion, influential leftists today are promoting outright totalitarian policies in the name of critical race theory in America's classrooms, our halls of government, corporate boardrooms, and even in our military. Critical race theory considers white people as racist, even Hispanics as racist because they came in and slaughtered the Indians, and all people of color as oppressed. So my feeling is that the PED has put their thumb down on the school districts and said, hey, you're going to teach this stuff. You're going to teach revisionist history. You're going to teach social emotional learning, and the heck with math and science. The overarching umbrella over the whole PED is now SEL, and that is so wrong. That is so wrong, and it's unfair to our teachers, and it's unfair to our school districts. And I hope that you'll stand up and fight back if you feel the same way, because I certainly do. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Struggling. McKaylee Peterson? Help me out. How close was that?
That's my wife, Michael. I'm gonna go first, Casey
Michael.
Peterson.
Okay.
So,
Typically, we don't do that, but no big deal.
well, my name's Casey Peterson, and we showed up here last time talking a little bit about the equity councils, trying to make everyone aware of what was going on. And I did have my contact information there, but I want, nobody reached out to me, and this is a woefully inadequate amount of time to cover this. And we probably have, between us, over 100 hours of research into equity councils and what the eyebrow-raising parts of equity councils. And last time I was here, I said 95% of it might be good, which it is. There's a lot of good stuff in equity council. I'm not getting up and tell you just because it says equity, it's all evil. 95% of it might be good, but if 5% of it is racist and evil, we shouldn't be basing the entire program on this. Like I said last time, if we had something called the Hitlerian Council of Aryan Children, there's no way that this governing board would put up with it for one heartbeat. And this is a handout I handed out here to the equity council. You can handle around so you can see them. This comes from the New Mexico Public Education Department, and this is supposed to be given to school boards and governing boards. This is supposed to be how you are being advised properly when you're doing it properly. It's just a sampling of what we're doing here. And one of the things they do is they talk about implicit bias. And if you don't know what implicit bias is, it's also been called unconscious bias, meaning that you're racist and you don't even know it. And they have links. You take this Harvard test. And if you go there, this Harvard test has been touted for years. It's been debunked for years. It fails in psychology, there's a measure of repeatability. It fails the repeatability test. It fails the reliability test and a validity test. Completely failed. And I have sources on all that. We have sources and receipts to back everything we are saying up. They have a link in here talking about how you don't trust your school boards. Make sure you don't trust your school boards. They explain how to talk to your school boards and make sure that this, equity and different things are getting into here. And we need to make sure that we're not hiding the evil from them. Like the evil parts of this isn't something that we hide. I'm coming to you because the school board can do something. We're doing a lot to fight this at a parental level. I heard that the school was driven by values. I heard the school board, lots of good things. You guys were driven by values. You can reach me. My number is 505-405-1776. That goes for anybody here. 505-405-1776. We'll give you all the information you want. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a different number than you listed?
That's just another number. Easy to remember.
The back end.
That number's good too. All the numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Peterson.
Sorry, I get nervous, so you went first, thanks. Okay, so like Ray and my husband were talking about with the Equity Council, I would ask you to please consider dissolving the Equity Council and to just focus on the academics and not on people's race. You can address all of the problems that the Equity Council addresses with a parental council or in other ways without this divisive rhetoric. So the Equity Council is a major vessel in which the New Mexico PED is pushing and planning on further pushing critical race theory. Also, we have the Black Education Act, the Indian Education Act, and the Hispanic Education Act. First, I ask you, would it be appropriate to have a white education act? Which education act should my half-minority child fall under? This is a question that many of us within New Mexico have been asking ourselves.
Why is the New Mexico PED determined to divide our kids by race? Aren't we trying to give them all a good education? And after Ray said, like last month, Steinhaus said, it's unclear if students in this lawsuit are any better off. They are more funded than ever, teachers are getting paid more, and yet kids aren't showing that much of an improvement. Perhaps their focus on requiring everything to be equitable by race is one of the problems. Assuming that every school, every administrator, teacher, parent, and student is guilty of racism simply because they exist is racism. These equity councils are full of and founded, unfortunately, on racism and discrimination. As educators, you know that the focus should be on equal opportunities and rewarding hard work. So again, I would ask you to please consider dissolving your equity council. It is beyond belittling and insulting to consider anyone less than capable because of their skin color. And as a quick side note, I would love for there to be a community center in Edgewood because the Bernalillo County ones in Sandia Park or Cedar Crest and in Tijeras are impossible to use. And so it would be really nice to have one closer, even on this side of the mountain. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Carol Hernandez.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a minute. I haven't been here in a while. And the reason is because I've been doing a lot of advocacy groups, and I just now finished a 7-week parent leader fellowship, and it happened to land on Tuesdays. And in that fellowship, we spoke a lot about building relationships and family engagement and how to fill those gaps. And that's what I'm learning on, that's what I'm focused on, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, as we all spoke, how can we fill those gaps? How can we build relationship and bridges between the school district, the community, and the students? Because we all know data shows that if there are family involvement in the kids' education, the kids are going to perform better. They want to please these families. And I think we could start by, well, first of all, let me get back to this. On my way home from those meetings, they ended at 7:30, and I was like, dang it, I could be at the school board meeting right now, and I'm missing out what's going on. Because I personally, most of the time I'm one of the only parents here, but I personally care, and I want to know what's going on in our school district and in our community. And I can't sit here and think I'm the only one that cares. Obviously, there's more people here now, maybe with different concerns. But as a community, I think it should be, all of our concerns are valid, and it should be everyone's concerns. So with that being said, a lot of people can't make it here on time, or they can't make it because they have families, they have kids, or they have jobs, and they can't leave their kids. So my suggestion is, and I wanted it on record, is to live stream all board meetings. And that would be the beginning, because there would be transparency, and we could archive those meetings and go back and see, you know, if there's answers to questions others may have who weren't here to get the response. So, live streaming all board meetings is my suggestion.
Thank you. Great idea. Thank you all for your comments. All right, moving on to student and staff recognition.
So I'm going to have Mr. Adams come up. Very excited about this.
Mr. President, members of the board, I would like to introduce Mr. Brandon Johnson from the New Mexico Humanities Council and Lynn O'Hara, the Director of Programs from the National History Day National Office, for a presentation this evening.
Welcome.
Good evening. We'd like to take a moment this evening to recognize the work of Amy Page, a teacher at Moriarty High School. Amy was selected as the 2022 National History Day Patricia Barron Teacher of the Year for the senior division. Engaging students in historical research, historical thinking skills, and she's been a leader both in her community and nationally. So we'd like to congratulate her here this evening.
your award a while. All right, Amy, can you smile a little bit? So thank you so much, and thank you for the day. Miss Amy, stand there just for a second. It's kind of like I just want to say how proud I am of you, the amazing work you do with our kids, and throughout the school, not only just with your NHD and your regular classrooms, your AP courses, and then being part of our Guiding Coalition at the high school. The work you do is amazing, and we really appreciate that. I'd like for you to share just briefly what you guys did today.
So when we found out that Lynn O'Hara was going to come, I spoke with our state coordinator. I said, if we've got her coming, we've got to take advantage of this. And so we worked really closely with Natalie Romero, our director of curriculum, and we put together a really enriching professional development program. We had teachers from 14 different schools represented today, and we did a full day professional development, hands-on learning, project-based learning, understanding how to work with primary and secondary sources. And so we were able to do, first of all, for Moriarty, we had all of history teachers from all of the district were able to come and really kind of get involved in understanding project-based learning and sort of engaging students in the classroom and flipping the classroom so that they can work with sources and develop those really critical writing and analytical skills. And I think that one of the things that we're really working on doing in the classroom is developing those upper level skills beyond just the language arts classroom, right? So some of the successes that we've seen in the last couple of years, I think, and I have a few of you whose kids have participated in National History Day, right? And it's a full inclusion program, and that's what's beautiful about it is it's 6th through 12th grade, and we've got every level of student who's participating. And the kids aren't here tonight, but to brag on them, you know, it's an elective class at the high school, but we're also doing the skills across the board throughout the history program. But we had kids who took 3rd place at nationals this year in exhibit. We had students who were, a student who took 4th place and was selected for the Smithsonian exhibition, and we also had some kids who took 10th place. And that's pretty powerful when you realize that we have kids who are coming from a small district, and people often say, well, New Mexico's 51st in the nation. Well, you know what? We're not 51st in the world in History Day, because this is an international competition. The year before, we had a national champion. We've had 20 different teams over the last 16 years make the top 10 at nationals, and those are our kids. And so the reality is that with support from the district, from our teachers, from our administration, they can do anything they set their minds to, and they are, and that was beautiful. And so the PD today was all about that, for giving that equity to all of the schools and say, here's a program, and this is how you can do it in your schools as well. So there we go.
Thank you very much.
A little thing that my last one just graduated in May, but all 3 of my children had the pleasure of having Miss Page, and her name comes up a lot at our table, even now, even though that 2 have graduated. And the biggest question they always have is, where do you think she stands politically? Because they have never figured that. Not one student can figure that out, which I think is awesome. So it was awesome. It's like testimony to you teaching, thinking in your classroom and letting them learn to think for themselves, which is amazing. Thank you. That's all we appreciate it.
Very proud of you. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming tonight and staying. I know it's a long day, especially after a whole day. So we'll let you sneak out if you want to. We really will.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And you're very wonderful. Thank you so much.
NHS Student Council representative.
She was invited, we thought she was gonna be here, but she didn't show up. Look at the soccer game.
I was gonna say, yeah, it was overtime.
Yeah, it wasn't?
Double overtime. And we still tied.
Oh.
All right. Moving on to principal and athletic director board reports. questions for principals, comments? Not easy tonight.
Oh, no, wait a minute, no. I have to make a comment. I just so enjoy each and every one of your reports, and I do see community going on in our schools, and it's in your reports. The programs that you're having, the parent involvement that you're having is phenomenal. So thank you for all you do, and I am very proud to serve on this board and be a part of the MESD school district.
Good, thank you.
Definitely appreciate the pictures in them. They always make it fun to see the kids in action. And I would also echo the community piece of it. It is refreshing to know through your reports that parent engagement is present. And I think that is very helpful. Because it is, I think as stated before, a concern, and so seeing it increase is definitely encouraging. And I think a lot of that is a testament to the principalships that you all provide in creating that environment where engagement can happen. So thank you for your work in that. Other than that, any other questions, principals, comments?
Keep up.
Keep it up, yeah.
Keep it up.
Keep it up.
All right. Okay. Moving on then. Board President, Board of Education, we'll be moving to item number 1, which is an action item. Any questions, comments? No? So then I will need a motion from the board pertaining to this action item.
Before you get to that, can I just comment about our regional meeting?
Sure.
Sorry, I'll just back up a second. We had our regional meeting at the high school this year, and we realized we haven't hosted for how long? It was
I don't remember the last time. Did we host it
6
when
or
you were
7
here?
years.
Tom? I don't think
It's
so.
been a long time.
He wasn't a host, no.
I
would have remembered doing that.
I'm thinking the last time we had it was probably right shortly after the middle school was built and had a dinner in the cafeteria. But it was really nice. We had a really good trainer come in for the school districts in our area and trained us on safety and recognizing weaknesses, doors getting propped open, things like that. We talked extensively about the, was it the Uvalde School District? Uvalde School District, yes. And it was sad at the end because they posted all the pictures of the children and things, but it was very interesting to see some lessons learned from that. It was a good training.
Trying to highlight would be the students.
Yes.
The participating districts from throughout our region were entertained. They were raving about our kids. We had band there, we had guitar, who else? We had FFA stand,
Choral. Yeah, choir.
We had choir.
Or JRTC.
JRTC, and we had the cheerleaders serving. It was just a highlight for so many of the other districts that were visiting. I think they're always amazed at the participation of our kids. And I would have to say that one of the most exciting pieces of that was the attentiveness of our students, as well as their politeness and courtesy. So many of the other districts, after it was over, just kept thanking us and just could not believe how well our students, presented themselves in that scenario. So it was very exciting. It felt really good. Even the couple of days afterwards, I was still getting comments from other districts, just how well our students performed and the programs. One of the big things that they were amazed is how many students we actually have participating. Just in guitar, in piano, in choir, and then our band is just the little band that can't. It just keeps getting better and bigger, and we're really excited about that, so.
And can you give me a grace and let me interject on that band, because that was one of the things I wanted to say was that little band of 23 finished first in a huge band competition and in Portales with bands 2 and 3 times bigger than they are, and they came out on top. So that just is another example of what we have here going. So thank you and congratulations.
Definitely.
Sorry.
Any other comments? Nope, I'm glad you called.
Thank you.
We're good. So then we're moving on to the action item. This is a board decision, so we won't be taking a recommendation from the superintendent. We will be doing roll call vote on it. So I will need a motion from the board.
I would move to authorize the superintendent and board president to work with legal team and provide direction to protect the district's vision for the property located at 285 Dale Road.
So we have a motion from Ms. Howells. From the floor? So we have a motion and a second. We will put it out to roll call vote. Authorizing the statement that
Could you speak a little louder so we can hear you?
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna need roll call vote from the board pertaining to this here. Yeah, does that help? Does that help at all? Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're gonna put it out to roll call vote. Sorry.
Wendy Burns, I vote yes.
Linda Hudson, I vote yes.
Elizabeth House, yes.
And Charles Armijo, yes. Yes. All right, moving on to superintendent's report.
So we did have guests at our last meeting ask some questions about our equity council. I did share just a brief overview during my report after the comments were made, but we have
Excuse me.
You've been served.
we have.
Can you please pass these out to?
I'm sorry, we're in the middle of the meeting, so if you could please sit
Board
down and
members.
we'll get, you had your chance to speak.
Mr. Bibiano, would you like to share your information? Mr. Bibiano is the lead of our equity council and attends our training, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yes. President Armijo, Superintendent Salazar, board members. And so we are actually trying to get our equity council up and running once again. We, before the pandemic hit and we had school closures based upon the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit, the PED directed school districts to start developing equity councils to look at different aspects of underserved students. And so it is our job to once again revisit the concept and ideas of equity council. I attended a meeting in September 26th. It was a regional meeting, which we really appreciated because in the past they were statewide meetings, and you know how that goes sometimes, right? With just too many people in one place and things don't get done. But the September 26th half-day meeting with the PED was very productive. We came together, the school districts of central New Mexico, and we were able to bounce ideas off of each other. We were able to look at what we have and what other school districts have in terms of equity council and see where we're at along the continuum of creating these councils and really serving the underserved students in our school district. And so based on that training, we will be getting some of our district representatives, like our directors, our coordinators, and I'm going to bring them together next week so we can start looking at the equity council and where we want to head, what our vision is like. The PED had all these components that needed to get done, like now, they said, 2 years ago. I think they realized because of different issues and different situations, and then of course with COVID coming along and not being able to really meet as we needed to or to work as we needed to, They backed off on some of the timelines, and they've challenged school districts to complete the readiness assessment, which we already completed prior to the pandemic, and then move into one of the next 3 components, culturally linguistic responsive framework, or just coming up with vision. And so I want to bring our directors together and our coordinators together, just so we can bounce ideas off of each other to where we're going to head with the Equity Council. As the equity lead, I want them to really think about a few of these topics, and real briefly, and I'll wrap it up here. What will our membership be? How will we get out into the community? How will we really get the voice from students to be part of this Equity Council? So that's something we'll look at. We will work on focus areas that will help identify our underserved student population. And then the last 2 really focus on budget. I really would like the Equity Council to have a voice in the budget process this coming year. And it's using the lens of equity as a resource to allocate our resources, and then to be able to make adjustments as needed to make sure that we're allocating everything that we can properly for the underserved students, all underserved students. Whatever category that those students may be looked at, whether it's the social and socioeconomics, if it's ELL, if it's special education students, to really use our Equity Council to drive that our resources, not just money, but our people and our trainings, professional development, would help serve these subgroups. And once we get that up and running, it's gonna benefit all our students. It'll benefit all our students. So again, those are the 4 focus areas: membership, identifying the underserved students, and then the 2 that tie into budget. And that's kind of where we'll start with in next week in our first meeting, and then we'll start moving on with our membership and having regular meetings.
Any of the board members have any questions for Todd?
When you say membership, how much membership are you talking?
Board Member Hudson, that was a question that was brought up quite a bit at our September 26th meeting. Some schools had 25 people on their Equity Council, some had 5, and some of the schools that were even larger than districts than the Moriarty Edgewood School District, they only had a few people on, you know, so that's what we need to have a conversation about. What does our membership look like? So we're all of our communities have some voice, our community members. I'm really interested in getting that student voice, really bringing the student voice to the table and using this as a platform for our students to have a voice when it comes to some of our resources, curriculum, and other aspects.
If a person wanted to volunteer to become a part of the Equity Council, is that possible?
That would be possible.
And
Yeah.
they would just contact you if they were
Yes,
wanting to
ma'am.
be a...
Yes, ma'am, and we'd have that conversation.
But we're really gonna
Right.
make sure that the focus is on what our vision and mission of our district is, and not, you know, there's a lot of outside stuff going on that we don't want to spend our energy on. So we're definitely gonna make sure that it's about our kids and what we're doing in our district, so.
The PED will require us to look at the framework that they provide, so we did a readiness assessment, and then there's a framework, you know, framework several pages, and it goes in depth in this area versus this area, and the recommendation, this last meeting on September 26th, you don't have to do the entire framework, you just pick what you think is gonna be best to serve your students, all of your students. And so it could be looking at budget, resource, and allocation. It could be curriculum. It could be, you know, whatever is decided, but, you know, that's what we're going to be looking at, that framework to whittle it down to just a few pieces so we can move ahead.
If there was something that PED put out that we weren't approving of, do we have any leeway to,
But we haven't crossed that bridge yet.
yeah, so, I mean, but...
Yeah, and there are some areas that maybe the school board or the council doesn't believe that's going to be best suited for our Equity Council.
And to help with that, Ms. Hudson, is that we, as a board, we can also request to know, and I'm sure you'll update us also.
Yes, ma'am.
As to where you guys are at and what you specifically want to work on, so that we can be part of the conversation and make sure that is going along with the mindset that we want the district to go to also. I mean, we've always kind of worked as partners.
And one of the things that with the equity council, you know, it is that you have an equity council. It's not necessarily, there's no, you have to assure that you're doing this, this, and this.
Right.
Like, some of the things we have to do, it's like, yes, you have to assure that you're doing that. So that gives us as a district, that leeway to.
There's flexibility.
Flexibility.
There's a lot of flexibility.
There's nothing dictating a direction that we have to go.
And is the, back to your membership questions also, is the PED, does the PED give you an example of what the membership should look like, or
No.
you just get to do?
No, so let me backtrack a little bit. They do give some recommendations, especially with student voice. And we look across the board at many school districts, and that's, there's not a huge platform for students to be able to come to the table and meet with the adults to have conversations about resources, about what's going on. So, you know, I've been really interested in trying to use the Equity Council as a platform for that.
And I would assume ahead of time that in the membership, that if you said you really want students' voices, that we wouldn't have, I don't know how else to say, okay, you wouldn't have like 6 people on there, 6 students on there that really believe in one belief, whereas you have, and that's all the representative we have on there. I would rather have a diverse, you know, students with different opinions.
That's what my hope is when we have this upcoming meeting, to just get ideas on how to promote within the district, especially students, participation and a diverse population. Yes, most definitely.
Thank
you.
I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. Is there, it's not like any of the other committees that require board participation in terms of membership?
Not
It's
necessarily.
not necessarily a requirement?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. To go back to, member Howell's question, there are no set guidelines like you need one person from here or one person from here. It's pretty open. It's pretty open. Some school districts, some charters are using their entire staff and some students because they're small enough. Some school districts are so big that they're using representatives from other committees as a core group to go out. So it varies tremendously.
And would this be similar, do you think, in some regards to, and I'm not sure if we are still doing that or not, but there was a time where we had, each school had to have, I'm gonna forget the name of the committee.
Some kind of council.
It was
School advisory council.
School advisory council, yes. Do we still have those?
So
Because we had a hard time getting people to participate in those, and I know, and it was required by law.
they still haven't, I don't think, since we've come back from COVID, because those definitely went out the window during COVID. I don't know that any schools have kind of brought those back. They've used their PTO in the past to kind of work at those. We definitely feel that at this point, we want to keep the equity council at the district level and not that work being done at the school, because our principals and that staff is not going to have training. And we want to make sure that the district's vision is spread, you know, and so that we know what's being discussed, like, we don't want any rogue anything, and so in any direction. So, and as we mature in it and get better at it and know what everybody's role is, I think that then we can, you know, move to going back to the school sites.
And I guess part of my point to that is that it was hard to get people to be in those, and now we have to do this, and I thought, well, you know, maybe somewhere along the line, someone could tell our elected officials that, hey, you know, it's a little too much on the way around.
Mr. President, if this is, so, this was the document that Mr. Peterson that spoke in public comment. This is on the website, but since he printed it out, I don't, can I pass it out to you?
Yeah.
And provide it, yeah, it is on the Equity Council resource website. So, and just respect the time and effort he gave us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Viviano, could I ask one
So,
question?
we, no, sir, this is the superintendent report, thank you. It's, seeing that book, we have that book in our district, but we have that in a room, it's not passed out to our staff,
I
so.
just didn't know if it was required reading by.
No, it is not.
No, sir.
Okay.
So we have, Mr. Lincoln, we have been working on our wells in our little well project for, I don't know how long. So he has a report he's gonna come and share with us and, give us some information on the, I think, high school wells is what we're
Yes.
talking about today.
Yes, thank you, President of the board, President, members, Superintendent. Yeah, so we decided that we were gonna be focusing on the 3 wells that were not functioning at the high school. And so the very far southwest corner well, at one given time in the past, they said we could pump out 30 gallons a minute. It used to pump out, that was our source. It pumped out more than anything else we had. And it actually quit pumping, and then when we went to check it with the company, they did the drawdown test and all, and we could only get 30 gallons a minute out of it, and then it stopped working altogether. So we have recently had a company come out, a well company that pulled that well. They put a test pump in, and has now informed me that we can pump out 60 gallons a minute. So it came out better for us.
And that was the southwest?
That's the very far southwest of us. Yeah, it's out past the baseball field.
Okay.
And so that's good news. So they are working on getting us a price right now to be able to get that pump in place. That will push our, well, obviously the gallons per minute that fills our tanks up 60 gallons more. The other 2 wells that we were looking at were 2 wells that were near the ag shop. And those are very shallow wells. They're only like 150 feet. And they tested both of them, and I think I shared the test results with you in my board report. And in their test, they came up dry. I mean, they have static water, but as soon as they put it to the test pump, which the report, in my report, it shows that it's dropping, and it dropped lower than the pump was, so. They are actually recommending that we look at abandoning them and re-drilling. And the whole purpose of this was to keep water to the north of the campus. And so they're working on that, or actually I got a hold of the vendor that is going to work with us. And what they're wanting to do is get with the company that came and pulled it to make sure that the saturation levels were correct. And then they would look at, possibly looking to see about re-drilling, if that's what we want to do, as prices and ranges and stuff.
Does that include, capping the one in the middle, the old one that hasn't been working for years?
Yeah, we have not talked about capping.
Okay, and then moving
It over to there.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a possibility, but we also still have the water rights to those 2.
This was an old well that's at the ag farm. Is it?
It's the well, it's just south of the ag building. There are 2 side by side. Yes.
So there's one at the farm there, right?
I believe that that's
I
it.
think it was
That was
those
the one
2.
that's
Correct. Those 2 were feeding.
Just thinking about the ag program growing. Maybe we were wrong.
That's encouraging. I mean, thank you for definitely looking into it and you know, identifying, you know, some of the vulnerabilities. I think is important that we identify that, but also find our strengths in that system so that, you know, the district can plan accordingly. Water is everything. You know, I mean, it absolutely is everything, you know. So I think our district's commitment to, you know, finally getting around to reevaluating, you know, our wells is has been a good thing, and I definitely appreciate your participation in it. You know, I think it's, we sometimes think, I kind of think of a conversation I had a while back about our IT department, and, you know, just how our IT is vested in student outcomes. You know, they're not just computer guys out there, just, you know, but they actually know their end game is to the benefit of students. And I sort of look at the wells in the same light, you know, I mean, it absolutely, the end game is to provide good water to our students. And more and more, I'm starting to realize, I mean, I've been at this a while, but it is really becoming more and more of a burned into my brain that district assets, even such as water, are absolutely opportunities for our students. I mean, it waters our fields, you know, so these assets become opportunities for our kids. I mean, so we have to, I think sometimes if we look at it through the lens of the end user, which is going to be our students, I think it'll always point us towards that true north, and what we're doing is right, you know, even when it comes to something like wells, because water is absolute life for us. So, you know, I think that if we keep that focus, we'll be making good decisions and making the correct decisions on which ones we walk away from, which ones we dig a little deeper, you know. So I definitely appreciate your work and commitment on that.
Thank you for those encouraging words.
Thanks for finding
Any other questions for Mr. Lincoln? Thank you, Lincoln, appreciate it. Just a quick update on a couple more other projects that we're working on in the district. As you recall, last month, you approved the conceptual drawings of the Edgewood Middle School outdoor classroom. And so the 50% drawings are complete. So we're hoping by November, isn't it, our November board meeting, that we will have those completed, and we will be able to be sending those out and getting a bid on those so we can move forward on that project. So that's an exciting project.
Leslie's not even here to.
I know, poor Leslie, he's not feeling well tonight. The other item, the facility master plan timeline, I submitted the application to PSFA for their match for the facility master plan. So it is the 11%, 89%, so we pay 89% of it, they pay 11% of it. We will have to go out for an RFP, and they will be working with us on that application to send out, because it will be over $60,000, and that is required by the state to have a facility master plan in place, and we have to renew it every 5 years. So just kind of a little timeline. We'll start filling out that RFP and the template now at the end of the month. We'll be posting that in November after we actually receive the awards letter from the state that they will be partnering with us on that. And then after December 1st, it's going to be in progress, and then the planning and the preparation will take place with that. It'll take anywhere from 6 months to a year. There's a lot of in-depth study that's done on that, committee meetings, looking at data, looking at census, and those type of things. So it'll be an ongoing process, but just to kind of give you an update on that facility master plan.
You're saying there's an RFP for the FMT to PSFA. Gotcha.
Or
So
that should be done
acronym?
in a WIEAR.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Thank you for that update. Any questions? All right, moving on, learning services.
Mr. Ramirez had a lot going on.
I like the literacy plan.
Do you want to share about that?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, Mrs. House, we actually did find out yesterday that our literacy plan was accepted and approved, and we scored 100% on our rubric. So we got our official award or letter from the Public Education Department, so we are good to go in that area.
I had a question on Power School.
On Power School.
Power School. Apparently it's still not linking the meet up.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, yes, in this house. So we have escalated the ticket all the way up multiple times, and the engineers at Power School just continue to say they're working on it. So
It's not all bad. It's just not putting the two grades together.
right, so what happened, so
Personally,
visually, when you get into the parent app, but also there was a point actually within the forward-facing quick lookup recently where Q1 just disappeared. That is back on our forward-facing. We can see it online in-house here, but the parent app, we cannot get Q1 to show. And
it shows the individual grades.
yes,
Yeah.
it does do that. And we are hopeful that now with you can see Q2, however, there also, last year you could see a running total and the grade. Now we can't even see that. So we are working on it, and I think we're up to ticket number like 6.
I had customer service. FYI, you might mention to Ms. Romero, and I said, I'm sure she knows, but I'll mention it.
Yeah,
But at least the grades are there, but I said it's Power Schools.
Parents can request access to Schoology, which definitely gives them access to their students' real-time grades. And if they have not been sent their codes, they can reach out to their teachers, their student's teacher, and they can access it into Schoology. And it's the live, accurate grade within each class. Absolutely.
Very good. Any other questions? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think we're good to move on to new business. We got a recommendation from us on consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you approve consent agenda items number 1 through 3.
All right, so we have a recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to approve consent agenda items 1 through 3. Any questions concerning items 1 through 3? If there's no questions, I'll need a motion for approval. So I need a second.
Second.
Alan, all right. So we got a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Moving on to item number 4, purchase orders over $20,000. We go to item number 1.
I move that we move this to the next board meeting.
So you want to table it to the next meeting? Or not table it, just
Just
move
move
it? So move it. So we have a motion on the floor to move this item to the next meeting. I'll need a second.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is that including, was there an opposed? No. Okay, so, all right, motion passes. Item will be moved to the next meeting. Whatever that is. Anything else, items B through E?
Ms. Young, is there anything that you would like to update us on?
Mr. President, members of the board, just to let you know, the audit is moving along. He is hopeful that our next audit meeting will be the exit conference. So, which we already have scheduled the 26th, I believe. So he was hopeful, and if he's not quite finished, he said he may request that we just go ahead and bump it a few more days so that we can finish that. So we're almost done.
All right. Good to move on to personnel?
Yes.
All right, moving on to personnel. Got anything for us?
Don't have any.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Young?
Less
congratulations.
Right.
It's a really good thing.
Never burns. I hesitate,
You
I get all of the text messages, so I'm not sure. Yeah, but I believe it is this week, yeah. A lot of the messages were because of the mud and the
Right.
alternate, and we have had several bus drivers that have been calling in, not feeling well. And that's across the district, I believe. We have staff members who are fighting some cold stuff. Yeah, so, thank you. Thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, and just a heads up on that, we had Dr. Harrison isn't here, and I'm sure all of my principals are hearing the same thing. Parents are frustrated. It's kind of like, their kids don't have a way to get to school. They're having to be late for work to take them. It disrupts schedules. If you have a high school kiddo that's on this bus and an elementary kiddo on this bus, and one of them, one day it's this one and the next day it's this one, it's a huge problem. And we continue to work on it. We continue to reach out. How many? Where are we at now? Do you have numbers?
Superintendent Salazar, I met with Mr. Berkman last week, and we were down to 2 open buses. One person was going to train, test today, I believe. Today's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Tuesday. And one gentleman, he's still trying to get his learner's permit through MVD. But we have those candidates, and then we had 2 applicants last week. So hopefully they can get their training as soon as possible and go through the dance. So we can actually put some sub-drivers on buses ready for us.
And we're still going to be utilizing the plan of having those people on contract, even though so we'll just have them as a long-term sub, basically, and they'll rotate through the buses so we can make sure and provide more reliable bus service. I know it doesn't make parents feel any better. It's kind of like that it's happening everywhere. No one has enough bus drivers. It doesn't help the parent that can't get the kiddo to school, or kids that can't go to school if there's no transportation. So it's a huge concern for us, and we continue to work on that. So.
Let me remind us too, several years ago that when we were having trouble with buses, getting to locations, and we had to move because the roads were so bad, and we had to move some things. Having parents call the county's road departments really helped.
Yes.
Yeah, it really helped.
Yes, Vice President House, I think actually, right there at Horton and Venus, where that intersection was really tight, and the buses had to, that came out of that, I believe.
Yeah.
It took a while, but I think last year they finally expanded that intersection with culvert pipes and whatnot to help out. I know it doesn't help the mud situation, but you're right, there was some advocacy from some parents that helped out,
That really
where the
helped out.
buses could even make some turns because it was really tight, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have parents calling and saying, because you had to move the bus stop or something, you might have a lot of accounts for
Okay, good. Any other questions?
How much is attendance being affected? Do you have a lot of kids that just aren't getting to school?
I believe that there is. Ms. Romero, do you have numbers that you've looked at?
Superintendent Salazar, Mr. Hill, members of the board. Ms. Hudson, no, I don't have specific numbers. The one thing that we are doing is ensuring that bus calls, I think the principals the bus department, transportation department is doing an excellent job in alerting the staff and the offices of when buses are canceled or when they're running late, those types of things. And so those students are being excused. Some teachers are turning on virtual. We have a few teachers spotty throughout the district that are turn on a virtual meet, and so the students can join. But those students are not being penalized. And I know that they're on a 6-day rotation. Is that correct?
So Member Hudson, the transportation departments this year especially, and we went into this system towards the end of last year, right, is, it's giving a few days heads up. So it's not that day. If it's that day, then it's probably a call-in. Someone's not well and we've already used up anyone that we have. But they're at least giving a day, 1 day at minimum, sometimes 2 days heads up that the bus would not be running, so alternate transportation can be made by parents.
You know, we all know how important it is for kids to be in school, so even if it's excused, it's still not the same as attendance and being there.
Attendance to learn.
So we definitely, it is a priority, and even, you know, I know that you as a board made it a priority to raise the salaries for bus drivers to, you know, so we could recruit more, and I think we've recruited a lot more than we have in the past.
We have absolutely,
It's
yes.
just getting them through the system, and
Yeah.
so.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I think we're good. Moving on to support services and special projects. I think we covered transportation pretty well. Any other questions for any of the other reports?
They were about done with corn and getting ready for beans.
I mean, and Josh is not here.
Josh isn't here today.
But it is nice. I mean, I'm still excited about
Oh, it is?
the ranch to school and farm to school
Awesome.
initiatives. And hopefully it can just continue to grow. And I think that is a solid program. So.
I actually saw on the news the other night where a greenhouse, I can't think of the word, where it's just water, hydroponics, there we go, I think of that word tonight. Lettuces and stuff, and they have several schools in England, so they're providing all the lettuces and the different stuff, and so it was a really cool project, and they've worked with Santa Fe schools and different schools in the past, and they hope to grow the program so that they can extend it to other districts, so that's kind of exciting.
I see a lot of gardens in the back of the schools.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It is interesting though that it's a little more complicated than just, you know, having access to it. It's the processing. I think, you know, I've learned quite a bit, you know, looking into it, and you know, there's a lot of considerations that the district has to make. You know, are you able to process the meat yourself? Are you able to, you know, deal with the grease? You know, your kitchen has to have the capability, and then there's, you know, the capability of accepting the grease, and then even just the storage piece of it. So I think as this program grows, I think the board is going to have to probably make some additional commitments. If we want to see it grow, I think it's going to actually take some planning and budgeting to make sure it goes to that we have the ability to go to the next level. So something to think about and have on our radar. So. All right, any other questions? All right, we're moving on to board policy, which we have nothing, so moving on to advanced planning.
So we do have the MHS Academic Awards on October 24th. What is, I don't even know what today is.
Next Monday.
It's Monday, so next Monday. And I'm assuming that is at the PAC and at 6 o'clock? At the PAC at 6 o'clock. Our December board meeting is during the holiday break, so we need to reschedule that. We were kind of looking at, in principles, I know how difficult it is with, you know, Christmas programs, Christmas concerts, all those things. 6th, that 7th, or 12th, anybody have, on the 12th, that Monday, anybody have a program scheduled for that day? Because it's not so much that we miss you, we miss the kids. We want to go see the program. Right. So can we agree on one of those days to not have a...
Don't schedule anything.
Yeah, don't schedule anything. Well, we could do a morning meeting too if we want. You know, we could do a Monday or Tuesday. Or Monday morning would not be good for me.
Wendy, I just have to figure out what it is.
Or we could do it late afternoon, like early afternoon. At 2 o'clock or something, no? That would work too.
Can do it 2 o'clock. Or morning, whichever. Let's see.
Make it easy yourself.
Mornings are always better, but I can work around it. If it works for others, I'll try to be flexible in
You guys shoot for, if you guys look at your calendars, on December 14th at 8 a.m. It's a Wednesday. And so check your calendars and we can talk about it next month.
You said 8 a.m.
Yeah.
All right, oh, you do not? You can't even wake up on your flights?
One other thing, the Nmsba annual conference, December 1st to the 3rd, it's already here. It's already back. That's held in Albuquerque. Is it at the Embassy Suites this year again?
Yes, it is.
So it's at the Embassy Suites. I believe it is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning. Is that correct? And is Thursday just Newport News? I don't
They've been
remember.
changing it up a little bit, so not necessarily.
Okay, so we'll let you know, so think about that and look at your calendar, and when we get an agenda, do we have a specific agenda yet?
I think it's all tentative right
It's
now.
tentative, yeah.
We, if we can register by November 16th, we get a discount. Prices
Early
go-
bird special?
Yeah, early bird special, so,
You know, we actually have a board meeting on the 15th, so we can do that. So we'll, if definites, we'll have a better agenda, and then we'll hold you to it.
November 15th, we gotta know.
Yes, we do. Yes.
All right. If there's anything else for advanced planning, anybody, recommendations, questions? I think we're ready for adjournment.
Okay, Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that we adjourn this meeting.
Sort of recommendation from superintendents